You know, I want to be in college right now. I don't want to have to be here right now, but because my generation has been failed in many ways by not all the people that have come before us, but by many of the people, especially the leaders that have come before us, we have to be here fighting. You know, it does not have to be this way. We don't have to be a country that has school shootings happen on a near weekly basis and everyday acts of gun violence happening hundreds of times a day.
Sadly, David was so right. Joining me now is David Hogg, survivor of the Parkland shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018 and co-founder of March for Our Lives. Also here is Jonathan Metzl, gun violence expert, director of the Center for Medicine, Health, and Society at Vanderbilt University, and author of the terrific book, Dying of Whiteness, How the Politics of Racial Resentment is Killing America's Heartland. David, Jonathan, thank you both for being here. David, we seem to be living in a real-life horror version of the movie Groundhog Day, with a collective inability to break this cycle, this tragic cycle, despite your activism and that of countless others. The question is, why?
I think it's because Republicans and Democrats have seen this as a one-sided issue where it's either you're anti-gun or you're pro-gun. And the reality is we need to find a third way as Americans. We need to realize that we have to address why somebody wants to pick up a gun and the fact that we do need to address mental health in terms of 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides, right? We do need to fund that. But what we don't need to do is talk about mental health only as a scapegoat for white nationalist mass shooters like the one in Buffalo. Racism is not a mental illness, but we also have to address how somebody gets a gun, the same way we did with cigarettes. And I think the way that we can make this time different, Jonathan, is we need Republicans that are on board with us, that agree that we need some measure of gun safety. I've talked to former congressmen like Joe Walsh. I've talked to Michael Steele, and I've gotten a number of Republicans on board with this, who I don't agree with on basically anything. But we found common ground here, and if we can do that, I believe Congress can do that as well. And that's what we plan to do on June 11th. We're doing another March for Our Lives around the country, not for a bunch of liberals and non-gun owners, although, of course, they will be included. But we also want to have Republicans there that support gun safety, gun owners like my father who support gun safety there, even NRA members who don't agree with their organization anymore to join us, because we realize that while we have our disagreements and we know what we disagree on, and I can respect the fact that somebody has a different opinion than I do, I can't accept the fact that we can't do anything to save our kids in our schools and our communities and our grandmas and their grocery stores and our kids on a daily basis. So that's why I'm asking everybody to march with us on June 11th. And if you'd like to join us, you can text MARCH to 954-954. Once again, that is MARCH to 954-954.
Jonathan, I want to pick up on something that David was just talking about in terms of mental health. And from Australia to Britain to New Zealand, we've seen other countries capable of restricting guns. And the majority of Americans are proponents of some form of gun control. Why is there only one party that seems to think the United States doesn't want to let go of their guns?
Well, if actually following on what David just said, I think the lesson of other countries, if you look at, for example, Scotland or Australia, there are places that have faced what we have faced, a moment of terror based on the aftermath of a mass shooting or mass shootings. It wasn't like those countries said, we're going to do some kind of global initiative that is applicable to the United States. The lesson of those other countries is that people came together across political divides. People kind of said, look, we are all citizens here. We are all, we all want to send our kids to school. We all want to have safety. And so I think the lesson that we learn from other countries is that when people come together across political divides, Australia is a great example, a country that has a history of gun ownership, of frontiersmanship. Guns really meant something there. And it was not an easy conversation that nation had. But basically they said, look, we're going to come together. We're going to sit around the table until we hammer this thing out. And that's really what the lesson is here. That's why I think what David is saying is so important, because we've fallen into a binary of pro or anti-gun means you're a bad person if you own a gun or something. That's not the issue. It's really common safety. And I think that is a common cause issue.
David, when you were on the show in January of 2021, so the beginning of the year, the clip we showed earlier was from November. You knew that I was going to be interviewing the head of the president's Domestic Policy Council, and you had a question that you wanted me to ask her. Let's play that, and I'll ask you about it on the other side.
Last night, I spoke with a group of Cub Scouts over Zoom, and one child asked, how could a 15-year-old even get a gun? For 3 years, I have stood up in this chamber year after...
Yes, no, that is the wrong clip. If we could play that clip, and let me know when it's ready. But this was a question that you wanted me to ask Susan Rice, Ambassador Rice, about guns. Just in the absence of the video, you were asking me to ask her about
what action she can take, essentially, and what
a national council or something like that. Right. Talk more about that. Have you heard anything from the White House on that?
We've been in conversations with them. And I work to figure out where we can find common ground, because even myself, there are times where the movement and people that are in elected office have disagreements, but we all have the same goal here. Even, Democrats have the same goal and Republicans have the same goal here, Jonathan. I want to highlight that. Look, we know what we disagree on. I'm not here to debate this. I've done that for the past 4 years, and I've met with people armed with AR-15s outside of my events, and I've talked to them. And even with them, I am able to find common ground most of the time, because we both want the same thing. We don't want our kids to die in their schools and communities. Nobody does. We just need to focus on what we can agree on. After Parkland, we have a deeply, deeply Republican state legislature in Florida. Even there, we were able to find common ground with Governor Rick Scott, raise the age to 21, and create extremist protection orders that have been used over nearly 6,000 times in Florida. As an example of how these laws work, look, I'm not going to lie. No law is perfect, Jonathan.
Right.
In a country with 400 million guns, there's always going to be some form of shooting that happens, no matter what policies we have in place. But it's like smoking. Do people still die of lung cancer? Do people still smoke? Absolutely. But we've made it. We've addressed how people get cigarettes and what the industry does, and we've addressed why people want to smoke. We need to do the same thing for cigarettes, and we can. The law that we created in Florida has worked, too. Somebody sent a death threat to my mom that essentially said, mess with the NRA, to put it lightly, and you'll be DOA. And we contacted first responders, law enforcement, and they were able to use the law that we created to disarm that individual through a court order and a right to due process and counsel. And he lived nearly just about 20 minutes away from us and had several hundred rounds of ammunition and a gun. These laws work.
It is.
We need action, though. We need to stop debating this, and we need journalists like yourself and others to keep this in the news, and Americans to keep this in the news. If you are watching this right now, I have a message for you. If you were, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you are an American that doesn't want our kids to die in their schools and communities anymore, I need you to meet us, and we need to figure this out. We need to get out there in the streets on June 11th and march together and show the people in Congress that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that Americans are going to come together and solve, because we are united. But I need you to help me make this time different. If you are a Republican, like my father used to be prior to Donald Trump, and a gun owner like my father currently is, we need you to go out there and call your senator and ask them to take action. March with us June 11th if you want to end gun violence.